Hey guys, this is Kamiken, and this video is going to hurt some people's feelings. If your story starts with the lore of your gods, your angels, or your demons, I've already tapped out. If we get a huge exposition dump about the world, the setting, or any of the characters that have nothing to do with what's immediately going on, I quit. You get 1 page maximum with a few balloons about the world or the setting that we're in. You get 1 page. And it better be good. And give us just enough information to get an idea or orient ourselves into the world before you start the story. If it goes any longer than 1 page, I'm out. I'm done. And in fact, I have a friend, my other writer in my writing group. His name is Ben Bates. And he has even less tolerance than that. He came up with what we call the 2-panel test. That's what he came up with. And if he won't patent it, I'll patent it for him. This is Ben Bates' 2-panel test, where if you can't make your story interesting in 2 panels, he's done with it. If your story is not interesting in 2 panels, it's over. People's attention spans are so limited these days. You have a very limited time to grab their interest and keep them hooked into your story. You only have 2 panels. 2 panels is your maximum, is your limit. If you can't hook the reader in 2 panels, then people's attention span these days will go on instantly to the next thing. You might have some leeway if you have a personality outside of your comic itself. But if you're trying to get people's attention just on the comic alone, then you have 2 panels to do that in. And if you can't do that, then it's over. And if you're thinking, oh, people shouldn't have low attention spans these days, and I shouldn't have to cater to them with my comic, they should just be able to read through my exposition because I wrote it. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. Because that's not happening. Readers are completely merciless, dude. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. They'll just move on to the next thing that actually respects their attention and jumps them into the story. Because if you'll remember correctly for the story Dragon Ball, remember how it started with the lore of Beerus and Whis and the gods and the angels and how they were in an eternal war that was going on in the past and how they were fighting and the Kais and all that stuff, the legend of the Saiyans and their war with Frieza and how all that stuff happened before the start with Goku at the beginning. Do you remember that? I don't. Dragon Ball simply started as a kid who was hungry. And that was it. A kid was hungry, so he went out to go search for some food and ended up meeting somebody who would change his life forever. And that was the beginning of Dragon Ball, the entire franchise. It was just a kid who was hungry. We don't even know the name of this kid until he meets that other character. And that's it. Well, I'm still not going to do that. I'm just going to write it how I want. Then suffer. Simple as that. It was actually my sister who was reading through issue number 2 of my older comic, Air Rider, who gave me one of the best insights to reader psychology that I'd ever heard. She was actually going through page number 2. So page number 1 had my main character on it. And then page number 2 had all these dialogue balloons. And she told me that she was getting like fatigued just reading through all that, all those balloons on the page. And I told her, like, this is what comics are like. This is what comic readers are used to. They read through all that stuff and it's nothing to them. But her visceral feeling was like, this is too much. I don't want to read through all this. I want more space between those dialogue balloons, because she's an avid reader of webtoons. And I had the same argument. I was thinking like, well, you read webtoons all the time, so your attention span is whatever, like it wouldn't be able to handle reading all these dialogue balloons. But the more I thought about it over the years, the more I realized like maybe there is too many dialogue balloons on that page, and it is too much to read. Like maybe a lot of them could be cut out. And the main thing that she told me, the best thing that I have heard in terms of reader psychology, is that at the beginning of the story, you want there to be less dialogue balloons. Or even at the beginning of a chapter, you want there to be less dialogue balloons. You want there to be little hints, little teases. You want the reader to be teased with the information that you're giving them. And then it makes them crave more and more information as the story goes on. It should make what she said. She said, by the time I get to the later part of the story, I'm hungry for more information. The beginning of the story only teased me with little bits of information here and there with very sparse dialogue balloons. And then by the time I get to the middle, I'm hungry for more. I'm craving more. I want more information. And that's when you can start giving them more and more information that the reader would need to understand the story. This is all from a reader's perspective. She's not a creator. She doesn't make comics. She's just a reader, and this is her actual experience of reading her favorite stories. So I thought this would be the perfect time to include that in my comics and the way I make comics from now on. So the best way to overcome this issue is simply to start the story out with the characters in the process of doing a task. Start them off doing something. And I'm going to give you a little curveball here, a bit of a nuanced point. It's actually fine if you start off with the angels and the gods and the demons and all that stuff, all that lore heavy stuff. It's fine if you start off with that. But start with these characters in the process of doing something. Start with a story that the reader can orient themselves in. Like, if it's just an exposition dump of facts, it's like reading a history textbook for a world that I don't care about. You want characters in the middle of doing something, in action. That way the reader will be invested in what's happening. That way the reader will want to continue the story because they want to know what happens next. But if we're just getting a bunch of information about what happened in the past that doesn't really matter now to the characters that are supposed to be the important ones in the story, then it's almost like you're wasting the reader's time. Like, we don't really care about that stuff yet. We're trying to get invested in who the principal character is or is supposed to be. That's why Dragon Ball didn't give you anything about Saiyans, anything about Frieza or anything until the latter half of the series. It went 200 something chapters before we ever got to any of that stuff. It just gave you a character in action doing stuff, moving the story forward so that you could get a sense of who they are and all that stuff. And then afterwards you start caring about the Saiyans and their biology or the situation with Frieza. Then you start caring about that stuff. But until readers get an interesting story, they don't owe you attention to your exposition or to your lore about your gods and your demons and your devils. So save it. Cut that out from the beginning of your story and start with the story itself. Just start it. Start it. Have the characters be doing something, and that will save a lot of lives. That will save a lot of time as well. And hopefully I just saved somebody's story out there, because I know you were planning on doing that. I know you were planning to start with some gods and some demon stuff. I don't care. just start with the characters doing something. And yeah, that's pretty much it. My story definitely starts off with the gods and the demons and all the devil stuff that you could possibly imagine. It's called Saintly, and it's a demon chase horror action comedy about two best friends who have to outrun the demon loan sharks that they borrowed from. It's basically like Scooby-Doo meets K-pop Demon Hunters. And the story backs the main character into a corner where she must decide between the hard path to success or lose her soul to the lure of easy money. And I hope you check that out in the link in the description. I've just updated all the pages so that they look at their best, at least in black and white right now. And soon I'll be doing a dialogue pass so that I can make the dialogue feel like the characters are really alive. Right now it's enough for you to understand the story and read the whole thing all the way to the end. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.